Okay, we are now live on YouTube. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:07. Sorry for the delay, everyone. Let me pull up the agenda. Okay, first we'll go through the minutes. Larry, as always, thank you for putting those together. Let me share my screen. This is the minutes from the October 11th, 2022 meeting.
Realized I don't believe I made the changes that we did. Oh, wait, that was for the previous meeting. Never mind.
Previous one, yeah. That was the September meeting.
Yeah, I haven't submitted those yet. I gotta remember to make the changes before I submit them.
Okay, no problem.
Saw that I was listed twice on the attendees.
Yeah, I just noticed that myself.
Yeah.
I guess we had
We've had made quite a few contributions to that meeting, so.
It's just a weighted list.
Okay, town website upgrade proposal. We had a discussion of what it would include and what it would not. Also reviewed, this is immediately prior to town meeting. We reviewed the proposals for town meeting. Okay, I think it was a fairly straightforward meeting. I don't have any proposed changes. Anybody else have any proposed changes, corrections?
Matches my notes.
Great. Okay. Propose that we accept the meeting notes as is without any amendments.
But with only one Angela.
Only with one Angela. Okay. Good catch. I propose that we accept the meeting as is with only one Angela in attendance. Anybody seconds? Second that?
Seconded.
Okay. Joe seconded it. Go around virtual room. Larry.
Aye.
Angela.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
And Will.
Aye.
Likewise, aye. Thanks. As always, Larry. All right. I think we're going to have a abbreviated meeting tonight. Unfortunately, Jay was not able to join us. He had some family things he had to work on. So there's a few items on the list that he's involved in, but so we may have to wait until our next meeting to address those. Next item on the list is user experience research effort status. So we have lined up, let me pull up the current numbers. We've basically sent out a survey through both the town website as well as My Southborough to seeking volunteers from various different age groups for the user experience researcher to interview with respect to their experience interfacing with the town website. So there's hyper focus on the town website, what modules we would need for upgrading the website. And so far we've received 15 different volunteers. And so we've had fairly good response. It looks like we do not yet have any volunteers for the under the age of 35. So I'm guessing this is probably not the best forum to advertise it, our meetings here.
How many volunteers do we have total?
15, 15. So I think that's a healthy number, but we are looking for some volunteers under the age of 35. So if you happen to have friends, neighbors, relatives in town, residents of the town that are under the age of 35, please encourage them uh, to volunteer for these interviews.
And we can just post the link in different forums, right, Matt? That form
Absolutely.
that you sent me, where it's okay to post those in Facebook groups and stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Post it
Okay.
anywhere. Yeah, Facebook. Yeah, in fact, maybe, yeah. In fact, I'm on the Babysitting Network Facebook group. Might be a good one. But yeah, any other forums, please post. So the process is the user experience researcher and I are meeting with Civic Plus tomorrow morning to learn more about their available modules. And user experience researcher has already started to formulate questions for the people that she interviews for those sessions. And we basically want to tune and customize those questions around what's the outcome, what are the decisions we want to make with respect to which modules to purchase, et cetera, how users interact with the site, what can be done, et cetera. So this is sort of a discovery session with Civic Plus tomorrow. And then we'll use that to formulate the questions that we pose to the interviewees. And then the goal is still completion by towards the end of November, beginning December, and have a plan as to propose improvements how citizens interact with the town website.
Matt, I don't know if the UX researcher has it, but there is a document that got sent around in email that talks about the new version of Civic Plus, and it has like all of the features and functionality that are in the new version. That might be a good thing for them to look at before meeting with them. So if you don't have it handy, I could send it over in email just so
That would be very helpful.
you guys
Yeah.
have it. Okay.
Thank you.
Send that over.
That's a fantastic idea. Yeah. Yeah. And Jay is working on still tracking down what, if any, of the analytics we might be able to have from the existing websites. Some websites he has no access to. So I think one of the like discoveries for me is if the town wants to improve engagement of citizens with their websites, we should be hyper focused on citizen engagement and understanding their journeys. And the way companies do this is of course, they use analytics engines, they use these trackers, and they embed them in all websites. So they never miss an opportunity to track and understand and improve the engagement experience. And yeah, I understand. Right today, the town has a lot of different websites. Rec has one, and library has one, town has one, and my senior center there's a senior center one, etc. But that's the benefit of having potentially subscribing to a separate service that's independent from any of these sites that then can correlate the interactions of users. And they can do that across devices as well. The best ones can correlate user activity, same users across mobile versus traditional desktops, etc. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about the prospect of doing this. It's not going to help us right now necessarily very much but just simply the discovery that we don't have this data can help us for the future.
Excuse me, Matt. Sarah is on from Youth and Family Services, and she's just wanting to know if she should stay on if we do plan to talk about the My Senior Center and other topics tonight.
Yes. Let's go ahead and pivot to that. Does anyone have any other questions about the main website and the user experience researcher work?
Well,
pivot to
the only thing, we don't need to discuss it now, but the only thing that I'd like to keep on the table, because I've brought it up at a couple of meetings, is basically understanding the problem or understanding the goal of the effort. And we talked about this, I think, at the last meeting, that unless we have a list of goals that we're trying to achieve here, we won't know whether the efforts we've made actually are worthwhile or not. And of course, part of that has to do with the analytics. I mean, one of the things that concerns me, and I'm all favor of new, shiny new websites, but one of the things that concerns me is, if the website is only getting hit 3 times a day, then, we need to understand cause and effect here. It might be getting hit 3 times a day because people don't actually need the town website. Or it might be getting hit 3 times a day because all of the other people who would normally hit it are frustrated with the user experience and have decided not to go there, which, if we're focusing on user experience, that would seem to be a premise of the whole exercise, but I'm not sure we actually have that data. And I'm not trying to sort of put a kibosh on the project. We're just trying to make sure that we understand what we're shooting for and the problems that we're trying to solve, because it's going to be a lot of money, and we need to be sure that we're attacking the right stuff.
Agreed. And I think I committed to start to document those problems, and I have not yet done that. I will do that, but that's a good point. The upgrade will be a lot of money no matter what. And I think we're pushing forward with the upgrade. My biggest concern is that we spend the money on the right way of upgrade. So it sounds like the train's already on the path. We're going to be doing the upgrade. And so if we're going to be spending money, thousands of dollars, we should spend it and prioritize improvements and prioritize the modules that are most needed to solve the problem, which we need, like, as you point, we need to document what is the problem.
If we're positing that people have a problem with the website, and of course I haven't actually seen proof of that, but I'll accept that as a premise, then it could be that the user experience is bad, or it could be that the information that they're looking for just isn't on the website, and it has nothing to do with user experience. And I'm not trying to claim one or the other, but we should have a little bit of information on that before we march forward.
I would say that I mean, you're right, that this could be sort of a chicken or the egg issue of the website. If the website doesn't have the right information and is not useful, then why do we need that? Why is it important to invest more? I'm viewing this as slightly different. I'm viewing this under the question and the problem statement that multiple people have stated in multiple annual town surveys, is that they believe the town of Southborough is not as transparent.
Yep,
and doesn't have, the leadership is not transparent, and they don't allow for citizen involvement. Now, what does that mean? Yeah, I don't think we fully understand what transparency or citizen involvement truly means, but I know for certain that our current website does not enable either one of those. So I don't know that this new website is going to be the magic bullet, silver bullet that's going to solve transparency. It certainly won't.
But hold on. When you say it doesn't enable transparency, I mean, isn't the open meeting law and the adherence to that something that is by definition transparency?
No, not in terms of what the citizens are asking for, because we have open meeting law and citizens are still complaining about lack of transparency.
But so, okay, they're complaining about lack of transparency, being able to go to the meetings, knowing when the meetings are, seeing what the agendas are, seeing the minutes is not in their definition transparency. What is?
I think part of it is accessibility. And so, for example,
attending the meetings is not accessibility.
Not necessarily. Here's my understanding, and I've observed this in town meeting. Right, town meeting, people were complaining about, certain committees weren't open and transparent. When in reality, they had multiple meetings, there were multiple committee meetings discussing a very particular topic, and if the citizen had simply attended those meetings or read through the notes, etc., then they would have not. So what's the problem here? The problem that the citizen is simply not accessing the information that is available to them, or maybe the information is not in available or easy indexable, searchable, summarized format.
Well, okay, I disagree with both of those as reasons to say that things are not transparent. I guess I would still ask the question in the definition. I was there at the meeting. I heard the people talking about, that things are not transparent. But on the other hand, I still don't understand what the specific complaint was. Because if we don't know that, there's so many different things that are done in order to inform people about what's going to be done or what's going to be discussed, and then what was discussed, and they're allowed to attend all of the meetings. This meeting, they can actually see it in real time. So it would be interesting to understand when that particular person or someone said that the meetings were not transparent. I think we really need to break that down and understand what they are defining as more transparent, and then we can determine whether or not a website upgrade is what we need. It could be something completely different.
It could be. I think part of the user experience research is to identify exactly what the problem is.
Well, okay, but that's a very broad view of user experience, right? I mean,
But
what you're really saying is you're saying the user experience is going to cover how people interact with the town government, not just the website, but the town government itself.
sorry, Joe, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just wanted to follow on to that, is saying, like, we heard earlier 15 volunteers is fairly good. Is that really representative of the community that is having concern regarding the transparency? If we're going to use the UX research as a lever to explore these vague concerns, how are we ensuring that the population that is responding is actually equivalent to the population that has the concerns? That's all.
Great question. So I do have access to some email addresses from people who expressed their concerns in the survey. And for those, I have not yet done this, but I will reach out to them and offer them an opportunity. Say, here's your opportunity to volunteer to understand what are your concerns and what possible ways that that technology can solve their problem. Going back to the other question of what is the definition of user experience? And from my career, user experience in terms of interaction with town should never ever be limited to one technology. Ever, I mean, this is not a point solution. We're trying to solve the citizens' concerns. And once we understand what the citizens' concerns are, then how can we use technology to solve that? And it might be a particular website, might be multiple vendors, etc. Now, the highest priority right now is understanding Civic Plus, and that's just one component of many potentially pieces of technology in our arsenal that can be used to solve this problem.
Well, what I would say is, are we including any, if we're going to go with an expanding version of UX, in other words, we want people to feel that the government is more transparent. That's not just a technical issue, I think. And are we including in our search UX experts that really have that broader perspective?
We sought for user experience researchers. So here's the amount of budget we have for user experience researchers. We sought volunteers, and we had a single volunteer, and that's what we have to go on.
Okay. I just, like I said, I would really like to understand what the complaints are about why people think that the Southborough government is not transparent. And I'd like to understand what their definition of that is.
I would like to also, and related to that, at this past town meeting, I don't know who of us were there, but there were multiple people who stood up and complained about decisions that weren't being made and weren't being made transparently about various different things that were composed. When in reality, some of the committees actually did have these discussions, and simply people didn't attend the meetings or listen to, etc. So inevitably, it happens over and over again. I have discussions with the several members of the select board about this, that they're frustrated as well. I mean, they've had countless open meetings discussing particular issues, and then citizens get up and complain, you never discussed this, and it's not discussed openly, when in reality it is. So I'm simply trying to say, are there technologies we can use to help bridge this clear gap and divide of communication?
You can lead a horse to water. but you can't make them drink. You can't make them
True.
think.
But with that being said, the current website I know is not the best solution.
Right.
That's
Our
What I,
website is archaic.
exactly.
there are a lot of things that are archaic that still work, but I'm one of them. But, I know that, for instance, the infamous Article 12, there was a lot of question as to how the flags that are flown at the particular cemetery were chosen. And actually, the guy who does choose the flags got up and explained in detail, what his reasoning was. And I thought that was very good. And that actually informed the, subsequent discussion on Article 12. So, from that standpoint, I think that there was a real effort to try and make things transparent.
Yeah, I think there's strong intention on all sides. I personally don't believe that there's anybody any committee or board who's trying not to be transparent in any way. And I think they're trying to be as transparent as possible. I think there's just a question of what can we use technology for to improve accessibility of information.
Yeah, I would agree with you that I don't see any examples now, but I would also say that there have been a number of lawsuits that would disagree with you on that in the past. Now, that a lot of that I think has been addressed, and the open meeting law I think has helped quite a bit. But I would just say that today, like I said, I don't see any. In the past, there probably indeed were.
Yeah. Okay. Great discussion. And I think this calls out, once again, we need to formulate what the clear problem statement is. And I will attempt to draft that and be prepared for our next meeting. And part of it will be discovery as we interview the volunteers. All right, let's move over to the discussion of youth and family services. Let me promote Sarah to panelist. And Angela, do you want to lead this portion of the discussion?
Sure. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Great. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Sarah had come to us a couple of times. We've been working with her group over, really the past couple of years. And after Jay joined, he's done a lot of work with her group to help get different secure technologies in place for the various services that Youth and Family Services provides. Sarah is interested in looking at a couple of additional services. So we greatly appreciate her reaching out to engage with the MTC on those discussions. And Sarah, I can turn it over to you so that you can chat a little bit about the different ones that you're looking at and some of the next steps around those.
Sure. So really only in the last, I don't know, time is kind of a blur these days, but in the last 5 or so years, we have navigated away from paper only. And we brought on board, some of you may recall if you were involved in the conversations, but we started using an electronic health record system called Therapy Notes. And that has been tremendously helpful. It's used in our department to house all of our mental health files. So anybody that we provide mental health counseling services to, we start a file within that system for them and house all of their documents. Because that's not the only service we provide, we still are in need of some additional platforms to collect information. Specifically, because we have a number of different services we provide, we were very interested in finding a HIPAA compliant database to keep track of every person, regardless of the service that they receive from us, and indicate what services they receive, what years, when they started, logging all of our interactions with people, and being able to search for people by program or service, be able to search by household, be able to search by address and contact information, And so right now, the only thing we have that we're able to do that with is anybody who receives mental health services. So we searched high and low for a provider, and I went on this very long journey only to come right back to something that's already existing in town, which doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense for us, given that we're not a senior center. But many other youth and family service departments are using something called My Senior Center. And it's exactly what I just described, because there's many social workers that work within senior centers. And it actually provides a few other additional pieces that we have been looking for, which include registration for various programs and events, and also a broadcast function, which enables us to send out emails to large numbers of people who are in the system. Right now, all we have is Outlook, which means that if we have any more than, say, 25 recipients, it flags it as spam. So it was an added bonus when we learned that My Senior Center does both of those things. There's an outward-facing website or web page that comes along with My Senior Center. So whenever within the system we set up any programs or events that require registration, people can look at all of that via what's called My Active Center. And it would enable us to collect registrations, enter people automatically into the system, collect funds if we needed to do that, and also help us with reporting, which is another big piece of what My Senior Center does. So that's one thing. And I know, Angela, you had sent out, I think there were, maybe it was just you and Jay, I think, that had met with Chris Hamilton, who's one of the developers at My Senior Center.
Yeah, I think it was Jay and I and Matt. And
Okay.
Larry, were you on that as well?
No, I had a question.
Oh, sure.
Just out of curiosity, given the name of that product, does our senior center actually use this product?
They do. I thought I was very excited to tell them about something new and exciting. And Pam, the director of the senior center, said, "Sarah, we've been using that for years." That's like, I hung my head in shame. But yes, they do.
But Sarah, you don't need the broadcast feature to be HIPAA compliant, correct?
No, because it's not going to be a back and forth. It would just be us advertising new programs or workshops, etc.
And this was more something that your staff was using directly for your own administration and to keep track of everybody. It wasn't something necessarily that residents and people would be accessing unless they went to the My Active Center to do some kind of event registration. It's actually, I mean, it's a nice little, cloud-based hosting piece of software. It's got event registration. I mean, it essentially does what it needs to do, quite simply and quite well. I didn't get into a lot of the cost of it, but just to refresh people's memory, it does offer encryption at rest and in transit. People log on through a username and password. They've got two-factor authentication, which would be out before June of next year. Most of their storage is based in AWS, but they're on their own cloud, rack that they have, one in North Carolina and one in Boston at a center called Tier Point. So, I mean, just from a security perspective, they seem like most other SaaS providers, and they were definitely willing to help with some of the startup. They could import data, and then it would just be up to Sarah's team to kind of keep that data current.
And it supports all of the database capabilities and functions that they're looking for.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that ideally we would love to see something that has all of the CRM functionality, all of the event functionality, as well as all the HIPAA compliance, but there just doesn't seem to be one thing out there that does absolutely everything.
What is this missing?
It does not have HIPAA compliance for the broadcast feature.
Oh, but for the database features, it does.
For the database features, it
We're
does.
going to be storing, if there's a lot of private information stored in this database.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, we were looking for, I guess, more of a unicorn. Well, I wouldn't say it's a unicorn. Something that it's possible if you have a sufficient budget to develop your own integrations between, basically a EHR system, electronic health record system, and a CRM system like a Salesforce, etc. And I think companies do that when you have large budgets, but and I was hoping that there would be something out there in the market that has both, but I looked and wasn't able to find anything. So
Sounds like somebody should raise some money.
Do you know what's funny? How I got back to my senior center, I had reached out to the president of the Human Service Council through the Mass Municipal Association because I was getting so frustrated with this search. And I said, Laura, there has to be something. Are there resources at the state level? Can we all pool our funding and try to have hire somebody to develop something that, and she said, oh, I don't know. Chris Hamilton is the developer of my senior center and he lives in town. Let's ask him if he can start something for us. And we talked to him and he said, oh, that sounds like starting a whole new company and I don't have the capital or the bandwidth for that, but let me tell you about my senior center. So I think I had said this to Angela and Matt that I don't know that this is the final solution, but we've been looking for so long that I really, we can't afford to keep operating without it. And I'm happy to continue looking, but I would really love to move forward on this because it will meet our needs and help us stay organized and help us with reporting. The way we're currently operating is we gather data from all sorts of different places and are manually inputting everything into a very, very long Excel spreadsheet. And it's really hard to stay organized and we're missing pieces and there's no real good workflow to it. So this would be tremendously helpful.
Have you thought through the migration process? I mean, how do you get this really, really long Excel spreadsheet into it?
They said they would do that as part of the implementation, that they would do a one-time import of all of the data, and then Sarah's team would just have to do anything in addition to that as people get added or subtracted.
Is there
go ahead.
Clarity in terms of whether any of the outward-facing websites associated with this would integrate with our town website so that we're not looking at yet another set of URLs that people need to know about?
The residents don't access this directly.
Okay, I thought there was an outward-facing part of it. Then never mind.
The way
there is, right?
there
For
is.
registration.
Yeah, the way I pictured that is that we have a number of tabs on the side. You know, I'm not an IT expert at all, so I appreciate any thoughts you have on this. But what I was picturing is actually the way it works right now is we have a program and event registration tab on the left-hand column. And when people click on that, it gives them several different links to click on that go to a Google form. So already they're having to navigate away from the town website to register for anything. I would imagine that clicking on that tab would lead them right to my Active Center and that everything would live in one place versus having it be a different Google form for each program or event that people want to register for.
One of the questions I had was, I think you may have already answered this, Sarah. Apologies if I've asked this already. Um, but user experience, if people are in the existing senior center database, I assume that users create the concept of a login, or they have a username and password. Is the username and password, obviously for this new site, this new instance of my senior center, is that can be completely independent from their existing username and password if they already have one on our senior centers?
I'm not sure the answer to that question. Chris did talk about something called an enterprise account, which would be sort of combining the senior center's platform with ours. And for us as staff, what would happen when we log in is that we would have the option of clicking on Southborough Youth and Family or Southborough Senior Center, and we would, diverge from there. I would guess that if we did something like that, that it would people would maintain one username and password. But I think that's probably more of a Chris question because I'm not sure.
Maybe good to ask simply from a user experience. It's one less set of credentials, and I think we have many, many miles to go before we get to the ultimate dream of having like some sort of open identity to interface with all town services, especially because we have like 5 different websites for every town service, for all of our town services. So, but if we could just combine those two, that would be one thing that just from a user experience might be a little bit simpler. Not as a requirement, not mandatory, but if it is possible, it'd be great to explore.
That would be nice. Coming from somebody who has a million different usernames and passwords, as I'm sure we all do.
Yeah, except my pad is getting full from writing them all down.
Yeah.
How is it being funded, Sarah? Is it through a grant or is it just part of the Youth and Family Services budget?
We are actually hoping to put this into our budget request. So we don't have, theoretically, we could use funding from our donation account, or we have friends of the Southborough Youth Commission who might be willing to pay for it to get started with it as soon as possible. But we don't have funding in our operating budget for it currently, and we would like to move forward with that for FY24.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
No, FY23. What year is it? I forgot.
Still 22.
Yeah.
Because I'm apologies for taking people's time. What is the fiscal year that starts in July? Is that what is that term? Is that the
The fiscal year that starts in July?
Yeah, the fiscal year that starts in July of 2023. Is that the 2023 fiscal year?
I'm sorry, it's FY24. Yeah, so it's named based off of the year that it ends.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. So I was right the first time.
I always get confused.
I'd love an opportunity to also, I know that we haven't done as much investigative work on this too, but I just want to put it on your radar. I did talk with Matt and Angela also about something that we're interested in, and I'm just going to use this as an example because it's the one I've spent the most time looking at. But we would really like to get our communications with residents off of town email, because town email is considered public record. And as a practice, we do not engage in conversations with residents about protected health information. If somebody needs to talk to us about their services or has a situation, we are calling them to discuss those matters. But we cannot prevent people from reaching out to us initially, sharing whatever they want. And even simply acknowledging an appointment or scheduling an appointment is something that should be on a HIPAA compliant platform. And so I've been looking at some messaging platforms. In particular, Tiger Connect is one that I've been looking at. I sent Angela and Matt over a couple of recorded demos that that Tiger Connect had sent me. I also participated in a live demo with one of their sales reps. I have pricing information, and I'm not married to Tiger Connect. It's just an example of what we're looking for. But it's something that I really think I feel strongly about, that that we need to move in that direction. One of the things they offer is a virtual waiting room, so people can initiate a conversation with us for the first time in a protected manner. We can converse back and forth with people, which unfortunately our electronic health record system, we can send documents through a portal, but we're not able to have conversation back and forth with people, and they're not able to share documents with us. So that's one downside of our EHR. And as I said about my senior center, I'm still very happy to continue looking at other EHR systems to see if we can find something that has this messaging capability. But I'm not finding one that exists right now. In addition to that, there's a patient engagement side of things with Tiger Connect, and then there's also a clinical collaboration channel, which allows our clinical staff to be able to talk to each other about things that require HIPAA compliance. So, so those are, that's one other service that I'd like to put on your radar.
And this would be in conjunction with or complementary to therapy notes, is that right?
Yes. Yeah, ideally, I mean, if anybody comes across something, an EHR, because all of the communications I'm talking about are really our mental health services. There's nothing else that we're doing that would require HIPAA compliance in that way. So all of the other communications we have with people can happen over email, no problem. But so ideally, we would find an EHR that has this messaging capability also. But I'm not sure if that exists yet.
Have you looked at Simple Practices secure messaging?
I have, and I think what I remember, they were one of the first that I looked at, that there was not. See, this is the madness, is that they have everything else we need except it's missing 4 things we have. Or this one over here has these 10 things, but not these 6. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it was about Simple Practice that, it's probably better in some ways, but missing things still.
Okay. Maybe good. One thing we could do is put together a little matrix, comparison matrix of understanding what are the key features that, comparison points of that we really rely on for therapy notes, and what are the deficiencies of these other EHR systems, and where Tiger Connect might fit in, etc.
Would you like me to do that?
No, I'm happy to put together a
Nope.
draft, and I maybe send it to you, and then, for your review and
Sure.
see if validation, basically. Okay. Any other comments or questions for Sarah?
I have a question. So I certainly want to share this information with you, and would obviously love to move forward with anything that we bring on with your blessing and your screening, et cetera. So are there additional, with regard to my senior center, which we've talked more about, and you all have had a little bit more hands-on experience with, is there anything more that you'd like me to do with regard to that before moving forward with putting that in our budget request?
I personally am good. I think you've done a lot of due diligence and appreciate all of your work. And obviously a proven technology that we're already using in other areas of the town. I think I think you already answered my question of, and I forgot the answer, but I think you already answered the question of, have you looked at MyRec? Because MyRec has the same concept of scheduling, et cetera. But I know you have. So
we actually used to use MyRec for all of our registrations, but it's not a HIPAA compliant. It doesn't have so I think Recreation does maintain a database and can search by service and program, et cetera, but it's not a HIPAA compliant platform.
Yeah, okay. Does anybody else on the committee have any concerns? I would vote. So I would say let's put this to vote. We're just for support of Sarah. And so if any questions come up, as we've seen at town meeting, we can say, look, MTC voted on this. We're supportive of Youth and Family Services moving forward with My Senior Center for that particular type of functionality.
Going to be very confusing to people.
Yeah.
I'll explain it again. It's fine.
Okay, so I propose that we support Youth and Family Services adopting My Senior Center as the platform for their program engagement or program advertisement, registration, etc. Is that properly framed, Sarah?
Sounds great.
What did you say the purpose was of My Senior Center in the motion? My Senior Center for
program program. Is a good way of
engagement, outreach.
Engagement, yeah. Registration. Or what's the best way to describe this?
I think for me for what I think our department is most excited about is having just housing people's information all in one place, and being able to generate reports based off of who we have in the system, so that we are no longer collecting information from various places.
So client information storage?
Yes.
Like a basic CRM.
Basic CRM and program registration.
Second.
Okay, thanks. Let's go around the room. Joe?
Aye.
Will?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
And likewise, aye.
Wonderful.
Okay.
And is there anything else with regard to Tiger Connect that you'd like me to come back with? I realize that, or next steps that you would feel more comfortable with.
For that one, I'd love to, let me put together a draft of this comparison matrix of what you're looking for Tiger Connect on. It's basically secure messaging, HIPAA compliant messaging. Yep. And let's basically document what are the deficiencies, and I'll try to do this and then run it through by you for review. But what are the deficiencies in therapy notes and potentially other platforms like Simple Practice, and then let's explore maybe a couple other options. But let's plan on discussing this in our next meeting, if that's okay.
That sounds great. I'll follow up with you over email then. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on. And thank you, Angela, for all of your work with Sarah on that. So standardized technology question vendor list. Have you heard, Angela, this being utilized yet? I mean, what we just saw was a great example, I think, of what we want to see for other town departments.
I wish I could say that was prompted by the brochure, but I don't know that for a fact. I'm guessing Sarah is just a good corporate citizen.
Yeah.
No, but I did want to reach out. I saw that you had sent an email out to all the department and committee heads. So now I have that email distribution list, so I can follow up with them and just, say, hey, we sent this, it's in your mailbox, please give us feedback. So I'll do that before our next meeting.
Great. Okay. We don't have any update from Jay, of course, on the server config. Joe, have you had any more time to work on your review? We don't have to discuss the details of it tonight, but review of the documents of architecture, network architecture, etc.
There are still some outstanding questions that were overridden by town meeting concerns last month that I was hoping to circle back with Jay in this meeting, so I'll take that offline. Some of the previous data that was exposed has since been rescinded. I'm not sure if that's part of the audit that's going on or the fact that there were some gaps in that data. So I was going to request, I'll just follow on with Jason offline. I was going to ask if maybe it would be a good training opportunity with the new resource with Hassan to say maybe I should schedule some dedicated time with him to do some of the Q&A, and then questions he doesn't have answers to, build on the knowledge transfer and the knowledge base. Because actually that's part of the onboarding I do at work all the time, is that new people come in, we surface the part that's just part of tribal knowledge by virtue of kind of forcing the new people to do the documentation.
That's great.
Jay had asked for some help with the second ISP. I think you're helping him with that, Joe. Is that right?
I had reminded him of that volunteering in an attempt to be circumspect and not dance over any lines of the open meeting laws. He had not responded when I requested for some more detail under a separate cover.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is, obviously, as long as we don't have more than, basically one or two of us involved from assistance, and then bring it back, anything back to the committee, then we're not in violation of open meeting laws. And I think we appreciate, Joe, your help there. I think you bring some very unique expertise there.
Basically, I'm just going to seek some parameters in terms of the basics of what's in the current RF spot for desired services, or even if it's just baseline with what we get today. So I can talk to some people in a couple different companies. Some were mentioned in an email thread that are totally valid options, and there's some other folks that are potential outliers that would be worthwhile.
Is Jay considered part of the committee from the point of view of the open meeting law? Since he's
ex officio, I would assume so. I would assume, well, no, he's not a voting member. Maybe that's something that Mr. Stivers could address. Let's put that question to him. Sam,
sorry, Matt.
Yeah.
The simple answer is I don't know, but town clerk could clear that up. My guess is he's not a voting member.
Okay. Yeah, he's not a voting member.
We can have two people plus Jay have a discussion, for example, without a problem, if that's the case.
Right.
Okay.
But can I also throw in that even forming a working group subcommittee is touchy. There are some folks who believe that if you do that, even with a non-quorum, that creates an issue for open meeting law. So what I've seen other committees do is appoint a point person to drive a particular issue, and then give that person the flexibility to draw on other resources as they deem appropriate. And as long as you don't have more than a quorum involved in that loop, I've heard people say that you're in much better shape in terms of open meeting law, so you might keep that in mind as well.
Okay.
Sam, since you're on, I'm just curious if you have any insight into what people meant at the last special town meeting about the government not being transparent.
I think that depends on who you ask.
Okay.
I think we're working hard to be transparent. Others don't think so. So no generic answer on that one. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I suppose we have Joe run point on network architecture review / connectivity discussion, and looking forward to that redundant connectivity. And likewise, I'd be happy to volunteer to be point person on the security review of our current network and services. Sam, is that something typically, when you have sort of appoint a point person, is that something you typically vote on, or not?
Not usually, I think, but again, different committees do things in different ways. So as long as it's the will of the committee to do that, I've seen that done that way. But again, Jim Hegarty is the best resource for all of this stuff. So any questions, I'd refer people to him.
All right. Is there any discussion or comments on those proposed point people from anybody?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that as long as we discuss the meeting and as long as I capture it in the minutes, there's really not much that we could vote on. We will be transparent if we do both of those things.
Yeah. Great. All right, so let's move on. Like we have, let's jump over to schools. I know I had a discussion with Ryan from the schools, and have started to learn about, you can call them challenges, you can call them opportunities for improvement, but Ryan has quite a few things in his hands. And I thought that, Joe, this is another area for, well, both Joe as well as something I could help out with. Joe, from a network architecture standpoint, from my understanding, where we were with the network architecture was, well, it was clearly deficient. And Ryan has already made quite a few changes. From my understanding, they're in review. They're all to obviously significant improvements. It was surprising how long we lasted in the current config. But Joe, is this another thing that you would have bandwidth for potentially after your work on the town?
Certainly, I'm curious and interested.
Okay. So, Ryan, is there anything? Is there anything? I certainly would take any detailed discussion of security or architecture offline. And if it involves the committee, the full committee, we'd go into executive session, etc. But is there anything you want to share with us tonight? Anything that's eating on you that you want to discuss with the committee, your latest concerns that don't have too much of a details about security or architecture?
I mean, in regards of lack of detail, no, there's really not too much exciting things we could talk about as an overview. But the concerns that you and I had sort of you had let me sort of divulge to you. We're the schools are making good progress at getting up to an acceptable standards as to where an organization of that size and what those facilities should be at this day and age. Yeah.
Great. High level question. This is budgeting season. And I assume, are you starting to put together a FY24 budget to potentially tackle some of these problems?
I am. Yep.
Okay, great.
Some of these concerns are addressed in my upcoming budget proposals. Yes.
Great. Okay. All right. Any other questions for the committee for Ryan this evening? Okay. Yeah, it's kind of sad. A lot of the detailed stuff like architecture and security are the things that we can't discuss in open meeting, but that's where the true impact is. So thanks for joining us, Ryan. The weather
Yeah,
is clearly nice outside.
I look forward to being able to help out if I can. Matt, just point
Okay.
me, please.
Okay. Thanks. We'll do.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Let's move on. Cloud deployment of Assess Pro. That's the assessor software. It was approved at town meeting. And this is something we need to discuss with Jay to see what the current status is. I'd offered to meet with him to plan that out and see where that goes. Mobile network coverage holes.
Is there agreement at this point that we will use a cloud service for SS Pro rather than hosting it ourselves, or is that still an open question?
We voted last meeting that to support it with the attempt of doing cloud first on infrastructure as a service first. At town meeting, there was some open questions about whether the MTC had reviewed it, and we responded saying we had, and we supported it provided that we cloud first, and we make an attempt to go cloud first. With that being said, I'm still in discussions, and we I know the selectmen, board select board is also keen on going cloud first. With all that being said, I'm still in discussions with Jay.
And the goal would be to do it as a infrastructure service now and move hopefully to a software service in the future.
Yes, that's my goal. I cannot confirm whether Jay completely agrees with that, so we need to sync up with Jay.
Or whether SS Pro is going to move to a cloud service at some point. A
I think-
software as a service at some point.
Yeah. Even if they don't move through software as a service, there's no reason why we can't run it in the cloud and perpetuity, right?
Yep.
So, and especially, I mean, anytime you have state, I was thinking about this, and this is where I'm keen to get from Jay a copy of the deployment guide and upgrade guide, and basically what is the infrastructure it requires. I'm guessing it's a Windows Server application. I'm guessing it requires SQL Server in the back end for a lot of its state storage, and this is key where instead of running our own SQL Server, you could just use a managed SQL Server instance that handles a lot of the backend storage and monitoring and redundancy for us. So this Amazon RDS has a managed database as a service offering, and so
yeah, it sure seems doable.
Okay, that's any other questions on the assessor software? Right, mobile network coverage holes. Angela, do we have any updates on that?
I'm still trying to identify some residents that can open up their own individual tickets for that. So, most of my time since the last meeting was more on the My Senior Center stuff, and then the stuff with the town clerk for mobile records. So that one's still moving a little slowly, but I'll get the tickets implemented before the December meeting.
Great, thanks. Town facility Wi-Fi upgrade, and there's some interest in discussing electromagnetic radiation in and around public buildings. Fortunately, we don't have details. Jay is not able to join us tonight, so we're not going to be able to discuss details of the implementation.
Are these separate topics or the same topic?
The Wi-Fi, the town facility Wi-Fi upgrade. So the topic of if we're going to be improving Wi-Fi coverage, such as, for example, around in outdoor external environments around the Department of Public Works, then there is some citizen concern around about the electromagnetic radiation that would bring along, and whether that has any creates a accessibility problem for those who wish to be excluded from electromagnetic radiation.
This was
So
separate from the dead zone issue. This was part of the ARPA request to make sure that DPW had the appropriate Wi-Fi connection. And I wasn't aware of this additional issue, but it sounds like that's a further concern that's come up.
yeah, it's a concern that some citizens brought up, and I don't know if it's the responsibility of the MTC to opine on the health effects of electromagnetic radiation.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Please.
There's open question about whether it's the responsibility of the select board either. Sam, I'd love to get your thoughts here. I didn't listen in on the meeting where this might have been brought up, but has the select board discussed this topic?
We've heard some presentations on it, but have not, in my memory, since I've been on the board, made any assessment or judgment about it.
So I think all this, the municipal technology, our committee should be focused on the technologies involved, and we're not, it will involve electronic magnetic radiation, but we probably will not discuss. We don't have any expertise or the desire to discuss any sort of health effects. It's outside the scope of our committee. So the DPW electronic permitting permit validation system. I think, as we discussed previously, we have a little bit more breathing room because people have renewed their permits till next year. I'm hoping that by early summer, beginning late spring, we'll have targeted a new system if we decide to move to a different system for permits, for electronic permits. I have reached out again to both the vendor of this hardware software solution, ask them about, they gave me a monthly price for the service, the cloud service. And I asked them about discounts for annual pricing. And in parallel to that, I've also reached out to a contact I have at MassDOT, and we would need to have a relationship with MassDOT or some other entity to be able to send basically the invoices for the exclusions, the exception list. Basically, where we sell permits, we enter the permits include a list of license plate numbers, and we enter them into the system, and then periodically, every day, week, month, or quarter, whatever we decide, the cloud system will spit out a listing of license plates that have accessed the facility that are not on the include list or the list of people who are permit holders. And from that list of exceptions, we would need to partner with some sort of state agency who has access to the license plate registration to send those individual invoices, very much like if you drive on the freeway without a transponder or drive on some other states. You drive on the turnpike without a transponder, or if you drive on some other tollway without outside the state without a transponder, you can still do license plate based billing, and we need a partnership with some state agency in order to do that billing. Any questions or basically I've sent the question, trying to find the right contact in MassDOT for that. And that's where we are on that. Any questions or comments on that topic? Okay. I think that is all of the action items for this meeting. Did I miss anything? A topic that we didn't cover in full? Okay. Before we adjourn, I'd love to review our calendars, and this is going to be a little bit challenging, I'm sure. We get towards year-end activities, but if possible, I would love to have a meeting, if not just possibly a briefer one in December to keep up with our cadence.
We're looking at Mondays or
Mondays or Tuesdays, yeah, in December. What does
Week of the 12th would be great for me.
Yeah. that's fine.
what does the 12th or 13th look like for people?
Oh, this is December 12th. Hold on, let me get there. I think December 12th would be just fine.
Yeah, either one's fine for me.
Yeah, either one works for me. I would prefer the Tuesday, but I could do either one.
Yeah, Monday or Tuesdays are fine for me.
Okay, so 13th, the Tuesday is what's on the table. Ryan, would you be available on Tuesday the 13th?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay, we'll block it for Tuesday the 13th. I'll put it for 7 to 9, but I think based on our topics, we'll try to keep it within an hour. I don't think we have as much going on, and we'll try, I know everybody's really busy end of year Friday activities, so. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time tonight. I propose that we adjourn. I
Second.
move that we adjourn. Okay, I think Will was the first to second that motion. Thanks. Let's go around the room. Joe,
Aye.
Will,
Aye.
Angela,
Aye.
Larry.
Aye.
All right, thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
All right, cheers, bye.